So it's funny to think there is a world in which you got paid more being on the practice squad.
Yeah. Yeah, just on that, they came out further ahead. But then Sam Darnold's, wiping those tears with his $100 bills from the contract incentives.
Yeah. And then obviously having a Super Bowl win into your belt's a good thing, but no offense, nobody plays that game for kudos. You play that game for money. Hello and welcome to another edition of the Elliot Omenson Show with Elliot Omenson and
Nathaniel Vossman.
Coming at you today with, I don't think we regularly get into taxes on this show. We do some other podcasts where we talk a lot about it. We actually just launched our first in an educational series on taxation. But today we're going to talk about taxes.
Yeah, state taxes.
Yeah. But don't worry, we're going to tie it to something interesting. I think it's interesting. That's football.
I think so.
Right? You may have seen reports coming out that Sam Darnold, not Darnoldson. Why do I keep saying Darnoldson?
That's a good question.
Yeah, I don't know. My mind's probably still thinking Spanish.
Yeah, I did my best to understand what he was talking about, but no, yeah.
But we'll leave the halftime show for another episode. But I actually really liked the halftime show personally.
It was good.
And I actually, way off topic here, but I saw a breakdown of the counter halftime show and the Kid Rock performance, and wow, now I feel like I should have watched it. And we'll get into that. That is a really interesting performance and real interesting story. But if you didn't watch it, and even if you did, you might not have understood the message. But yeah, that was actually pretty phenomenal. And so, like, what I love about a lot of things in America is just because someone wins doesn't mean someone else loses. And I really think both sides won that day. And I don't think it needs to be us versus them scenario. I just think it can be like everything in America, pick what interests you, and there's room for everybody to win. And I really think that's what happened that day, personally. But back to the taxes and Sam Darnold. You might have seen headlines that he will be taxed more than what he earned. And in a sense, that's true, and in another sense, it's not. And we're just going to get into it and cover it.
Yeah. So because of the fact that the Super Bowl was played in San Francisco, the amount of days that he's working there, he's paying California income taxes
on his entire annual salary.
Yeah, so it's like a percentage of the total days, essentially.
Yeah.
They call it duty days, days that they're actually working. And with it being the Super Bowl, they get there a lot earlier compared to just a regular season game. So in this case, I believe he spent 8 duty days leading up to Super Bowl and with the Super Bowl. And that left him with a pretty sizable tax bill.
Yeah, $249,000 is the estimates of income tax having to be paid to California.
Yeah, and then to contrast that, through the NFL makes $178,000 for winning that Super Bowl. And I believe that's an amount that all players make. And so just based off that, that's a loss of $71,000, compared to state income tax. I know you're looking up, there's a lot of other contract bonuses that far, outweigh it. So it really makes a lot of money. So the money's not the issue. It's just the perspective of how much he's owing in California. Just because California has the highest state income taxes.
Yep.
And for him, it's just quite unfortunate because he's from Washington, a state that has 0 income tax. And so if they just spent, the 7 days leading up to the Super Bowl in Washington, then his tax bill would have been a small fraction of what it was, because he's paying over $30,000 for each day worked in California.
Yeah, and so that was the only thing that I And I wish, it's great going into videos like this to have an opinion, be able to stake your opinion out, right? Get people to argue with you about whether your opinion's right or wrong. I don't know like what my opinion on this is yet, right? Because California also taxes non-residents, including individuals who do not claim residency in the state, on income earned from services performed while physically working in California, even if it's just for a shorter temporary period. So for non-residents, California taxes only California-sourced income, not worldwide income. And so it's interesting that with the jot tax, it sounds like the differentiator is like, how do you claim that the income he received for that game in the Super Bowl pertains to his 7 days not performing, just because they're literally just there training.
Yeah.
Right.
That's how it works, though. He's working in California, so the way the tax law says it is, he's earning, his earnings while, it's not just the day of the game, it's those official training days, the whole week leading up to it, and paying tax on it.
Yeah, and so this originated, you know where it originated from? So again, they call it a jot tax, but it says it's not a special tax. It's just the application of these same non-resident sourcing rules to professional athletes and sometimes entertainers or coaches. It was popularized in the 1990s after taxing the Chicago Bulls in the NBA Finals. And so these duty days include games, practices, travel, media obligations in the state.
Yeah, so basically just anything that they're officially in a work capacity.
Yeah.
Which, makes sense. I can't really argue that. You just got to think of it as a perspective of these players. It's like, and they do make, money off it ultimately, but it does hurt a little bit, when you hear that the Super Bowl is in California versus like a Texas or really any other state with much lower, taxes, because it obviously makes a pretty sizable difference. Granted, Sam Darnold's contract is so big, and that's why these numbers are so large, but it still applies.
Yeah, because they're taxing based on his entire contract.
Yeah.
And 41 states plus D.C. impose a general personal income tax on wages and salaries. Virtually all enforce non-resident taxation on athletes' earnings. So it's not like the NFL can say, hey, if you're doing this to us, we're not going to come play there.
Just California happens to have
the highest tax, right? And so pretty much the only places without a personal income tax on wages and salaries are the ones that don't do it, which is Alaska, Florida, Nevada, New Hampshire, South Dakota, Tennessee, Texas, Washington, Wyoming.
Yeah, so it's home state. No state income tax.
Yeah. Now, Washington, D.C. is prohibited by federal law from taxing non-residents' income, even though it's tried in the past.
Interesting.
Yes. Is that wild?
Yeah, I didn't hear about that.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. So and this is the logic behind, I don't know if you've ever heard about, they're trying to pass a minimum global corporate tax. So places like Ireland and Luxembourg can't attract shell corporations to funnel profits out. That if you can just make everywhere fuck everybody equally, there's nowhere to run.
Yeah, that would really hurt for them. Yeah. Ireland.
Yeah. And so hopefully those countries that have the ultra low corporate tax don't cave and join with that whole idea. So
I didn't hear about that.
Yeah.
So it's one flat rate for all countries?
They're trying to pass one flat corporate rate for all countries. This is a really big deal previous to the 2017 Jobs Cut and Tax Act that reduced our corporate tax rate down, which resulted in $2 trillion coming back into the United States. Because at that point it made financial sense to move your money back in, pay the tax so you could deploy it again. But previous to that, our corporate tax rate was so high that it made a lot of sense for companies. Like I know the guy, Greg, who went to Luxembourg for Amazon and set up Amazon's Luxembourg division in order to funnel their profits out to Luxembourg to shelter them from taxation. He went on to run Airbnb, by the way. But yeah, you know, it's just interesting. So you could kind of go into this. There's something called there's I think it's called tax incidence. I think that's the right word for it. And so it's funny to me that people are so pro taxing corporations, because where does that tax that they pay come from?
The people.
It comes from the consumer.
Yeah.
And the higher the corporate tax rate, the higher the corporate product cost. It's just part of the cost. And now there's tons of studies which show that the bulk of a corporate tax rate falls on the worker. The second highest amount falls on the consumer. And the third and the least amount of that corporate tax actually falls on the shareholders.
Yeah.
Which to me would just be pure common sense.
Yeah, that just makes sense. I mean, because they're still a business, so they're going to try to drive profits.
Yeah.
So
the higher
they're going to,
the higher your tax, the more my product costs.
because of course they're going to pass it off, and you argue the same thing about tariffs, and yeah, I mean, these companies are in the business of providing for the shareholders. That's just how it is.
Yeah, but but there's a major difference between tariffs and taxes, which, even though every politician and leftist media hack refuses to acknowledge it, when I put a tariff on something coming into the country, unless there's no alternative, I can go buy that product from somebody that already makes it here and avoid the tariff.
Yeah.
If the tariff is done in a way that I know it's going to be consistently applied moving forward, as a company, I can move my manufacturing operations inside the United States.
Yep.
So that my product no longer has that tariff on it. When I apply a tax to it, there's literally nothing I can do. When I say I'm moving the corporate tax rate to 30%, I can't move my operations inside the U.S. to avoid that tax. In fact, then I'm forced to move my operations outside the United States to avoid the tax.
That incentivizes to leave.
Yeah, and so it's funny to me that nobody will acknowledge in the media, especially in 2025 and 2026 with these tariffs going on, that a tax, which all the people against the tariffs are all for a tax. And it's just wild to me that they can't comprehend that the tax is unavoidable and drives costs up to the consumers and decreases wages to the worker. And a tariff actually does the exact opposite. But no one will acknowledge this on the left. Yeah. So what do you think? So I guess when it comes to the Sam Darnold.
Yep. Sam Darnold
situation. Oh, the one thing I wanted to add into that is if you just look at what he was paid for that one game, it's $178,000, right?
Yeah.
And his tax is $249. But most places estimate his bonus from winning the Super Bowl to be somewhere between $1 million and $2.5 million.
Yeah. So, it's a good payday.
Yes. And then we looked up other players. Most other players don't have those kind of contracts. I think the base, and I'm not going to be exact on this number, but just to play on a practice squad, your income, I think, is like at $800. I think that's the bottom.
Yeah. I'll look it up. But yeah, it's not being very helpful.
And don't get me wrong, I'd love to be on.
It is around, I think ChatGPT saying $795, so basically $800.
Yeah, that's close.
And so, of course, for those people, their tax bill is going to be nowhere near what Sam Darnold's was.
Yeah.
He's quarterback of a Super Bowl winning team.
And so they probably came out ahead.
Oh, yeah.
Because I think everybody got the 178, right?
Yeah. And so they came out ahead by a long shot.
Yes. So it's funny to think there is a world in which you got paid more being on the practice squad.
Yeah, just on that, they came out further ahead. But then Sam Darnold's, wiping those tears with his $100 bills from the contract incentives.
Yeah, and then obviously having a Super Bowl win into your belt's a good thing. But no offense, nobody plays that game for kudos. You play that game for money.
Yeah, at the end of the day, yeah.
And obviously then there's other non-tangible benefits that become tangible later on down the road with, endorsements and all the rest of it. But still, I think it's, like I said, I'm against taxes of all kinds, from any source. Well, I'm not exactly against state taxes, to be honest with you. I'm against federal taxes. States, there's a difference between state tax and federal tax. And states do need tax revenue to pay for schools, the roadways, and all the other things that they offer. And then obviously the difference between a state and a federal tax is I'm free to not do business in your state if I don't want to pay the tax.
Yeah, unless you're in the NFL, and then
you're forced to go. But the NFL could choose not to. But if 41 states are taxing you on it, they could still choose to hold the Super Bowl in a state with a lower state tax.
But that would just really benefit. Yeah, they don't really actually care much about that.
No.
I just know if I was a player, I would take that into consideration. If I got multiple teams offering, like if you got a chance to play for the 49ers or the Houston Texans.
Yeah.
Houston Texans, like you're making 13.3% more because you're not paying any state income tax.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is actually a huge difference.
Oh, my goodness.
In some states, like here in Kansas, Missouri, we're around 5%.
Oh.
Which still sucks.
Well,
compared to 13.
So if Darnold is getting paid $30 million a year, that's $3.9 million gone.
Yeah,
if that contract was in California versus in Texas, or versus in Washington.
Because if he played for the 49ers, for example, and then he went out in the Super Bowls in Texas, he'd still be paying the full
he would
state income tax. It's
he
like
would
the
be.
higher of the two, and he'd still be paying 13.3.
Yeah,
so that hurts.
Yeah, that's crazy. So, well, I don't think there was anything in here for anybody to yell at us about or argue with.
No,
that sucks.
No, sadly, yeah.
But here, we'll give you a teaser. So. I was going to try and link this to the halftime show just to create some controversy.
All right, let's hear it.
But I think I blanked on what my connection was.
Well, we'll have to make a whole separate video so we can get some
Yeah. But I do want to do a video on the halftime show. I think one of the things about the NFL, right? There's a comparison between the marketing fuck up with Budweiser. That lost them. I think they're still down based on having a transgender person try to become the spokesperson and for a beer that's drunk by a bunch of rednecks. But I think the reason why it was dumb is because you have a ton of different beers to go pick from. The NFL literally gets to do a halftime show in a language that the bulk of their fan base can't understand. Not that any of them understood Kendrick Lamar either.
Yeah, that's a good point. I both performances I understood the same amount.
Yeah, exactly. And to me, I'm just watching the show. The show's great. Like I was glad to see because I thought this was the best halftime show I'd ever seen.
Yeah, very well produced.
Extremely. And I was glad to see some major rock star came out and he put it second to Prince. I don't recall seeing the Prince show, or maybe it would be second. I vaguely recall it. Didn't he play in the rain? Didn't it rain? No, it couldn't have because all the Super Bowls are in a dome.
Well, no.
Yeah, they have to be. Or in a sun. They're not in a. They won't play. Okay, I know they won't play them in a dome in a bad weather state. So I think that's why they either go to California, Florida, or they have to be in a dome because they're not willing to risk the weather for a Super Bowl.
Fair enough.
I don't recall seeing the Prince show for some reason.
Yeah.
But I do think it's funny that the NFL, they're trying to become global, right?
Yeah.
And so they have this halftime show done primarily in Spanish. I thought it was phenomenal, even though I didn't understand any of it. But like I said, I didn't understand much of Kendrick Lamar either. And I like that one too.
Yeah.
Did The Weeknd do one recently? Because I remember seeing a show at The Weeknd. I thought it was pretty spectacular. I know it got.
Watch it. I'm not really big on the pop culture side of things, and so
I'm not really either. It's just to me, it's weird to me how like every halftime show there's like this massive controversy about it, and I don't get it.
Yeah, because it's fun to hate on it, and so like every year there's something. Like I'm pretty sure even like that one year that it was like Shakira and whoever else, and they were shaking their ass. J-Lo, I think.
Yeah, everybody's mad that people grind and shake their butts and whatever, but that's what pop music does.
I think every Super Bowl halftime show has some ass shaking.
Yeah.
I can't remember any that don't have a little bit of ass shaking.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I don't know. No, that really turns my crank at all. But I do think when we do another video, we'll do a video about the halftime shows. I do think that the Kid Rock halftime show for Turning Point USA was incredible, and I didn't watch it.
Yeah, I didn't watch it either.
And I regret having not watched it once I read what he did. So we'll talk about that. And either way, I think it was a win for a fairly small organization, minuscule compared to the NFL.
Yeah.
And I think they had 25 to 26 million individual viewers with 6 million or 5 to 6 million concurrent viewers just on YouTube. And so I just love how, and you know, multiple people can do different things and all win. That's what I love about capitalism.
Yeah, not a zero-sum game.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyways, for today, this is Elliot.
Nathaniel.
Signing off.